That was a great message. And to think that I thought I had kept this particular, enemy of my heart far away from me. Hey, let me ask you to act today. If you felt particularly or specifically compelled to make Cornerstone a place that you give to, please consider acting on that feeling. Become a recurring donor to Cornerstone, or try it out just by giving an amount of any size to your church, and then let me know how this is affecting your heart and the health of your heart. Steve, it was such a good message. Of course, all a ploy to get more money. I know it is.
Well, I thought when you were just talking right there, I thought you were going to say, like, just let me know how much you decided to give.
Yeah.
Like, wow, you're really...
We should ask that.
You're really getting bold with these
But you had this... There was this one quote from Scripture, how we were supposed to be rich toward God. Mm-hmm. How is being rich toward God the same or different from just being really generous with your church?
Yeah, how is it the same or different? So I think on one hand, there's like we've talked about for a while, if you go back to our What Does Love Require series from way back in the beginning of 2020, the way that we understand loving God is by loving other people really well. And I don't think I could stand in front of these cameras or in front of any of our campuses and feel like the resources that we were bringing in wasn't going toward that with any sort of integrity whatsoever. And so I think they're very similar, but I also don't think it's limited to that. I think being rich toward God means being rich to anyone you come across in any part of your life, any facet of your life. And then, like, I think I said it during the sermon when I talked about being a spontaneous giver, when you see a need, meet that need. And I think that's what the story of the Good Samaritan's all about, is you see a need, meet it. You count the cost and pay it. And that's kind of the way that Jesus talked about money, and it's a little threatening for us now because it's super challenging. But yeah, I think that's what it means to kind of root this enemy of our heart out of our lives.
Yeah, because it feels a little bit, you said threatening. Mm-hmm. I think that the scriptures have been used to kind of, and weaponized to help promote religion. Yeah. And, to promote this really unhealthy church leadership or how to,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's some of that, like, trickiness that can happen with greed, is it's so easy to, like, cover it up with this, disguise greed with this, like, ulterior motive of, like, no, this is for God. But I think, like, honestly, if someone came to Cornerstone and didn't give any money to our church but was being very generous outside of this place to people, they're being rich toward God, I care way more about that than what...
because it changes our heart.
Yeah, that's what matters. That's why we do what we do.
So it's so difficult to recognize. You started kind of with that. Mm-hmm. It's so difficult for us to recognize greed in our own heart. How have you tried to, figure out how to see that in yourself?
I mean, I think some of those lists that we talked about during the sermon have been so helpful. Like, through wrestling through this sermon, I realized how much wrestling through this message, I realized how much I hold tightly onto my things. Like, I get really peculiar about, like, letting people borrow things. I'm like, hey, can I get that back now? Like, you've had it for long enough. Now I need it.
Yeah.
And it's like there's this attachment that I have, and it took me wrestling through this sermon to really understand, like, no, this is a big struggle for you.
What are the kind of things that I could come and borrow from you, by the way?
I don't have anything. I'm out. I gave it all away.
Because now I'm thinking about it. I'm going to come see and practice. See if you want to practice it on me.
I will for most people. I don't know about you, but that's like
right.
That would make me nervous.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. It's something I'm trying to work on, because we all know people that are very, very generous with what they have, and that it filters through into every aspect of their life. And that's something I aspire to get to, but it's a challenging path to get there.
It really is, because we tell our kids, come on, share. But then when somebody comes to your house and says, hey, can I borrow your truck for just a couple days? Because you're like...
Don't break it.
And then you hear God say, share,
right.
Share. And you're like, oh. And there are people in my life who are actually like that. Mm-hmm. They're so open-handed. Yes. And it freaks me out a little bit. Like, why am I not like this? I want to be more like that.
That's the most convicting thing, is we tell toddlers all the time to share, and we're the ones with more things. So why is that not something that we just wrestle with and sit with and actually do, is share? Like, why is that so challenging?
So it's written in some of part of the value of our church that we share our advantage with those who have less advantage. What do you hope for Cornerstone, for us as a church group, as a community? What do you hope we become?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of hope for Cornerstone, but like in a really positive way, because I think like God has positioned us right now uniquely in some pretty incredible ways throughout the Bay Area with some of the connections we have with different community leaders and some of the things we're doing to help the unhoused folks in our different communities. One of the things I hope most, though, is that kind of like you talking about the people in your life that you're like, there's just these people. Those people come to our minds so fast. My hope is that when people think of Cornerstone Fellowship and anyone that's a part of this church family, that's the way they think about us. They think about someone that's a part of this church family. They go, they're just so generous. They share with anyone and everyone that comes across their not only their church doors, but like neighborhood churches help me with a ton with this whole concept of sharing, because I have people in my home and we're like opening up our lives to people, and it's so beautiful, this expression of what church should look like. And I hope that that's carrying over to our neighbors and some of the other people we interact with. And I hope that's what Cornerstone's known for.
It's so countercultural.
Yeah.
It sounds a little irresponsible to have things in your life you're just going to give away, you're just going to, do with what, give it to your neighbor, give it to say, yeah, use it or whatever.
But isn't that the beauty of of following Jesus?
Yeah.
Is everything is so countercultural. Like there's so many things that Jesus says that are like, oh yeah, we can get on board with that because it like fits in with, it's easy.
Yep.
But there's so many times throughout Scripture and throughout the Gospels where Jesus is saying something and you're like,
I don't know.
That's tough.
I don't know if I can do this one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, let me put a question here on the screen that you can use to go a little further in exploring all these truths. This is all true. Man, we're going to leave it up for a few minutes, and if you want to turn to someone around the table or around your coffee table maybe and try to answer it or answer it in the chat with others who are attending church online with you, or throw it in a group text to talk about it with friends, or write it at the top of the page for today's journal entry. Here's the question. What would it look like to live open-handedly with what I have, trusting that God will provide all I truly need? Hey, thanks for being here. I hope to see you back here next time.